sharing screen. I think it's been super interesting. One of the things that I think is the most interesting, one of the themes, is basically the kind of process of decision making by which we identify what strategy to get your next million users is the best one, or where to focus. Eddie, as Natalie says, we're all live everywhere in the world by dint of having a website, if we do have a website. So with that as an accepted fact, and accepting that you can invest in localization or marketing or whatever it is to a different extent in different markets, how do you deal with that from a decision standpoint? How do you think, this is the market, or this is the process that I'm going to spend my time in investing in? Are there green lights that help you guys as leaders make that kind of decision, or that would encourage you to recommend a certain thing to a CEO in terms of identifying what markets you should be investing in? Is it that you should do something evenly across everything, or is it that you should invest your kind of time and effort to localize in a single one? Does anyone want to come in on that question first of all? Natalie.
I have a lot to say on this. In fact, I have a chapter on it in my book. So I think it's a lot more complex than often we think. And so often what I've seen companies do is over rely on the market pull signals. So they might see things that, these users seem to be exhibiting this behavior, and it gets very exciting. And so they think, let's lean into this market. But what's really, really important is to think through the end-to-end customer experience, which I know is incredibly complex and getting more complex by the day when people can access digital experiences in so many different ways through so many channels. But I've seen this happen where people think, oh, this is a good market. Look at the adoption, look at the monetization rate, look at, these signals and these metrics. But when you take a step back, sometimes the company itself is not even ready. So they start to go down this path and they get all excited and they invest more resources because look at how we're growing users and look at how we're growing these top of funnel metrics. But then when it gets to, we don't actually have the ability to accept their payment types. We're seeing we're seeing collections problems in this market, or we're seeing actually there's more fraud, and there's all these different issues that are not usually thought through up front. And so I believe it's really, really important to have those conversations earlier. And so, not to overhype the book here, but I do have some questions that you can ask to think through these in advance. Like, do we even have the ability to offer local currency? Do we even have the ability to support a typical B2B payment type in Brazil that's only in Brazil, and things like this that a lot of companies don't even know about when they just add Brazilian Portuguese in the UI. Like, they're not thinking through, how are people going to pay? How are we going to collect payment? Do we owe local taxes? Does that change our tax structure? There's so many things to think through. So I am trying really hard in the book to get people to connect the dots on all the downstream impact before they overinvest in a way that is going to create a lot of buzz and anticipation that they can't actually deliver on. So that's my take.
Just to understand, sorry, I do want to ask everybody else that question, but just to understand what you said, you're kind of agreeing with James on the intensive extensive thing, that actually you're better off thinking intensively about a whole product experience in a market rather than just starting to kind of translate out into multiple things. That's what you'd recommend in general.
Yeah, I mean, those cues are important too, right? So I am a fan, like sometimes you can't help it. Like if you're launching in multiple markets and you don't have many choices about, let's say you're required to launch in these markets, even if it's in one language due to the platform that you're on or whatever, sometimes that's very valuable initial feedback that you need in order to decide where to intensify. So I'm not trying to say to companies, you need to do all the research up front and know every detail before you even get started, because I do believe there's power in learning, testing, iterating, and I don't want to prohibit people from doing that. But I also think once you have some initial data, don't just read those signals alone and make your decisions based on just that information. Once you have enough data, maybe then use that to look at the other aspects of the customer experience. So I'm actually codifying that in my book with some questions, but also a framework that people can use to make better investment decisions